Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Does your warehouse waste time and money managing forklift batteries? EnerSys can energize your operations with a customized solution, delivering the power you need while minimizing ownership costs. EnerSys starts by analyzing your operations and then selecting from their comprehensive range of battery and charger technologies, develops a truly optimized system tailored to your needs. EnerSys gives you the power to increase productivity and profitability. See how EnerSys puts power in motion for you at enersys.com. Businesses are retooling fulfillment operations, from warehouses to omnichannel, to meet new demand amid unprecedented labor shortages. 3PLs, retailers, B2B distributors, and others are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems to adapt and scale. 6 River Systems Fulfillment Execution System is an integrated solution that combines intelligent, cloud-based software and automation, including its autonomous mobile robot, AMR, Chuck. No costly or disruptive infrastructure changes, fast and easy associate training, and integrations with other warehouse execution solutions allow operations to meet labor challenges, increase efficiency, and enhance customer engagement. Go to www.6river.com to learn more. Go to www.6river.com to learn more. Are you looking to reduce forklift incidents? Lopos Alert is the perfect match for you. Lopos offers a 360-degree collision warning solution with cutting-edge technology and a dashboard to monitor and improve safety. Lopos Alert can be installed in under 30 minutes and used on all types of forklifts, making it a plug-and-play experience. For a trial request, go to www.lopos.be. That's www.lopos.be.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I am joined by Mike Myers. He is the Director of Product Solutions at Third Wave Automation. And we're going to talk a little bit about Third Wave Automation, what it is that they do exactly, and a little bit about their mixed mode approach to automation and what that actually means. So Mike is going to talk to us a little bit here about that. So Mike, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Kevin. Appreciate you having me on.
Definitely happy to have you on. I know Third Wave Automation, I think, was mentioned on a previous podcast we did with Clark Material Handling. So I'm interested to talk to you and dig a little deeper into Third Wave here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Third Wave Automation and what it is that you guys actually do?
Yeah, so Third Wave Automation is focused on automating material handling equipment in the warehouse, distribution, and manufacturing spaces. Our approach is a little different than some of the main AGV players that you know on the market.
Right.
We actually take a base OEM vehicle and then retrofit in our shop with the necessary compute and sensing technologies.
Okay.
So how that translates is, at the end of the day, it's a base piece of equipment that can be serviced in the field effectively in a similar manner that you're used to with your current equipment.
Interesting. And so I guess, go a little further and tell us, for some listeners maybe that are not so familiar with how some of the other guys do it, how is that different from, some of the other stuff that's on the market?
Yeah, so a lot of organizations are building fully custom machines. So it's not to say that, all parts and components are custom, but rather their design spec and assembly, etc., is custom. what that typically translates to is getting service, in the field will require a little bit different knowledge set than somebody who just wants to or is able to work on the base OEM-esque vehicle. So it's just a little different in terms of the type of, facilities or maintenance personnel that are required.
Interesting. And so from, I guess, aside from the maintenance standpoint, which it sounds like is a little bit of an advantage there, maybe you don't need somebody that's so technical in that sense to do with a custom solution. But, from Third Wave's approach to that, what was the thinking, I guess, in deciding that, let's go and attach our automation solution to an OEM model versus, going fully custom like someone else would do?
Yeah. Third Wave at its heart is a lot of roboticists and a lot of software engineers.
Right.
And that's not to say we don't have a hardware group. Absolutely do, but that's not necessarily what we wanted to specialize in. We really wanted to be focused on getting the market with a solution that people could recognize quickly, understand how it's supposed to operate, and mesh into their workflows and their spaces, as seamlessly as possible.
Interesting. So, it's an interesting approach. I think it kind of goes back, I guess, to like the old adage of, don't reinvent the wheel, right? So you're not necessarily going and deciding like, okay, we want to, build our own forklift and redo the whole forklift. We just want to take, what exists, what works, and then make that automated in a sense. So now, I guess with that being said as well, are you able to take existing fleets and automate them? Like if I'm, a company and I have some forklifts that I've been using with a human here for, a couple of years, can I now give that to you and you can automate it? Or is this just stuff that's coming straight off the line?
Yeah, so this is coming straight off of the line.
Okay.
We won't automate existing equipment today. That's definitely a dream, but there's a lot of challenges, as you can imagine, just with rev changes between vehicles, the quality of the vehicle that would be inherited, etc. There's just, a lot of challenges to overcome. So as for today, it's, a brand new vehicle that we're placing in the customer sites.
Okay, all right, understandable. And I'm just curious about that. And so tell us a little bit about, in that sense, you guys have this TWA reach truck. TWA for Third Wave Automation, right? Not TWA Airlines, right? So tell us a little bit about that reach truck and how that kind of came about and who you've partnered with on that.
Yeah, so we are partnered with Clark Material Handling, who has been, making vehicles for a really, really long time. I believe oldest in the States. And it goes back to what you said before. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. The OEMs have been making a really good machine for a really long time. Yeah. And what we found with Clark in particular was some advantages with the physical dimensions of the vehicle that helped us accelerate into smaller aisles than what a lot of the, I'll say, comparable vehicles on the market are doing today. The base vehicle is set up for a 366-inch lift capacity, and today we're supporting down to 10.5-foot aisles and marching towards 9.5. Oh, wow. So we're pretty excited about, getting down into that 9.5 area.
Interesting. And obviously space is always a concern, when you're in the warehouse, and, how can we get as much product in here as possible, right? And obviously, over the past couple of years with everything going on, it's been even more of a hot topic. So how much is, getting down to that 9.5-foot threshold in an aisle just something you guys are working towards to have, or is it more of like really a push from the customer demand that we want to see this and we want to be able to utilize something like this in that smaller footprint?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, so because we are need to be, brownfield capable, we're not, there's always going to be more old buildings than new buildings, right? So focusing on the facilities that exist today and the way that they operate makes sense. And what we have found is that a lot of customers are hanging around in that 9.5 to 10.5 aisle range. And there's great logical reasoning for it, right? The buildings are designed in such a way that it kind of encourages that layout. The equipment has been designed to accommodate those types of aisles, so everyone's kind of marched that direction. So we want to be able to fit the market need effectively.
Yeah, interesting. And I think, the getting down to that tighter aisle certainly allows you to put more product in the building, and having, an automated solution that can handle those smaller aisles, I think is, not only, more efficient and productive way to go about getting the product out of there or putting away into those locations, but it's also a safer way too as well, because, when you get tight aisles as an operator, it gets pretty tight in there. You have to be pretty precision accurate on those movements, and one little slip and you could take out a beam pretty easily. I've seen it myself. So it's really interesting how you're moving towards that. And I guess in that sense, I mean, are you seeing from a market perspective, and you talked about, the brownfield and the old facilities, there's always going to be more old facilities than new, as you mentioned. Are you seeing in a sense that people are maybe more interested in bringing in like an automated reach solution versus potentially, going greenfield and bringing in like an ASRS pallet shuttle system? What do you think is kind of the temperature out there on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that for lots of reasons, organizations don't want to get into new facilities when they don't have to.
Right.
So if the facility is meeting their throughput needs, their volumetric capacity needs, then they're inclined to stay there and find technologies that fit. I think the other challenge is really the payback period on the ASRSs.
Right.
They're very large scale projects. They can deliver phenomenal throughput, but it's a pretty significant upfront capital investment, in particular if you're adding a building onto that cost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's pretty interesting because, for a while it seemed like, to get that kind of dense storage, that you kind of had to go in that direction. But now you're seeing these automated reach solutions like the one you guys are bringing out here is giving you kind of an alternative in a sense to that, and a little more flexibility with, like, as you mentioned, an existing building versus, having to go out and either, take an existing building and basically, tear it down and start over, or, going out and getting a whole new building and adding the cost of that and everything that goes along with that. So it makes a lot of sense to be able to look at solutions like this. And I'm curious, a couple months ago we had MODEX, right? And obviously there was a ton of automated and robotic solutions there. I think is like an overwhelmingly amount this year. It was pretty crazy, but you had, I think, in the Clark booth, there was the reach truck you guys have done on display, right? So how was the reception to that, and what were people kind of saying about, seeing that?
Yeah, the reception was phenomenal, honestly. The biggest thing that, people commented on or got excited about from recollection was the multi-mode operation that we offer with the vehicle. I think, being able to see the vehicle live in person, it has a excitement factor to it all on its own.
Oh, yeah.
But with the camera systems mounted on, with the LiDAR systems in place, and then helping people understand that multi-mode operation, people were really excited about it. It was a phenomenal show for us.
Yeah, I bet it. And so, I think even, you said, seeing something in person is like makes a bigger impact. And, I think especially after, not seeing anything in person for like 2 years, it's like even a bigger impact, right? So, well, you mentioned there a couple of times this mixed mode automation that's on this truck. So tell us a little bit about what does that mean exactly, and how is that kind of different from other solutions that are out there? Like why is that a big deal?
Yeah, so we are multi-mode in the sense that we have 3 different modes in which you can operate the vehicle. So it's an autonomous vehicle first, right? And that is great, but we all understand that there is no automation that will perform autonomously all the time, right? There is inevitably going to be a challenge, a problem, an obstacle.
Yeah.
So that's where our second mode really comes into play, and I think has tons of value. So we have a remote op capability.
Interesting.
So we can leverage that remote op, in a couple ways, but primarily the use case is to allow that remote operator to provide assistance or guidance to a robot at a distance. So when that truck comes across a pallet that it doesn't understand where it's supposed to go, or perhaps it can't read the label, we can bring the human intelligence back into the process and allow them to leverage the 9 cameras on vehicle, the LiDAR on vehicle, to get all the contextual information they need to make a decision to get the robot moving again.
With e-commerce off the charts, many small and growing warehouses are asking, how can I get ahead when my warehouse is barely keeping up? The answer is future-ready warehouse tech from Zebra Technologies. Warehouses can simplify and upgrade all processes, from automated inventory management to hands-free picking, with Zebra's tailored, scalable mobile solutions. They're simple and intuitive. There's never been a better time to upgrade for success with Zebra. How can your warehouse get ahead? The answer's in black and white. Get the answers at zebra.com/theanswer. That's zebra.com/theanswer.
Interesting. And the remote operation then, I mean, you obviously you mentioned all the cameras that are on there and the LiDAR and stuff, so you can see what's going on. I mean, can you essentially access that forklift now from anywhere to remotely operate it, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we're working towards truly being anywhere. Today, we're set up in such a manner that you need to be intra-facility.
Okay.
The concept would be that the remote operator would be within the 4 walls of the building, but likely located in a office space or, a sectioned off area of the warehouse, in a cockpit, if you will. And the user experience is really that they're able to see, the full fleet of vehicles. Most of the time, that's what their input is. It's just the view of the warehouse, view of the fleet. Yeah. But once a robot has an issue or a challenge, it'll send a request. I like to refer to it as phone a friend. People typically get that. The robot will call the remote operator, and the request will go into a queue, and then they'll hop on. Most of the time, they're asked just a simple yes or no type question, or a confirmation type question, but occasionally they need to actually operate the vehicle. And that can be, various lengths of time. It could be as simple as making a micro adjustment that the vehicle can't do autonomously yet, to actually driving a segment of the warehouse, or completing, a pick or a place that's outside of the scope of the automation.
Very interesting. So, I mean, it's almost like, in a sense, you're taking a fleet, a forklift that you might have, and maybe you have, for example, we say you have like 10 operators, right? And And we all know that there's, obviously labor shortages, and it's tough to get, operators, and certainly experienced operators that are, very good and efficient on those forklifts. And you could essentially, have that knocked down to one or maybe one or two remote operators that are kind of just like overseeing the autonomous forklifts, right? Am I thinking of this in the right way?
Yeah, that's exactly the thought process. So, and a lot of the AGV-esque solutions on the market today have a similar, operational process to handle it, where, that operator will be on the floor. They're not physically on the vehicle, but when the robot has an issue, the person will move across the facility to, get hands-on and provide that guidance. The way that we look at it is we're providing a couple of, direct benefits to that individual, because now they're truly remote, they're away from the vehicles, they're away from a vehicle that has a challenge, right, which is beneficial. And ideally more comfortable and more engaged across a larger number of vehicles.
Interesting. Yeah. I think that's a great approach. I mean, and you touched on the being away from the vehicle in the sense of a safety aspect too. I mean, it's a really good thing, and I think a lot of things too. There's a lot of kind of concern and apprehension around automation and robotics from people of is it safe, is it really going to work? But I think in that case where you're taking the operator away but still kind of giving them some control, you're keeping them safer than they would be if they were just on that truck 8-10 hours a day, who knows, right? Depending on the shifting and overtime and all these things, right? But I guess in that same sense, when you see that, okay, you're going to bring in these automated trucks, and then we also have this remote operation option as well. I'm curious, have you gotten or heard any type of kind of concerned around that, where people are concerned that if they're operating the truck from like a cockpit, as you mentioned, that's not necessarily like at the forklift, that the reaction and the ability of the forklift to do exactly what they're telling it to do is actually happening?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we of course have heard plenty of concerns. There's a couple of approaches to mitigating risk there. Okay. It's not to say that you're without risk, but one is the ability to adjust the speed in remote op, right? So even if the vehicle itself in autonomous mode is able to travel at 2 meters per second, let's say, right, in remote operation, perhaps operationally the customer would feel better if we were at 0.5 meter per second. Then great, let's take that approach, right? And that's a nice way to mitigate some of the risk. The other big component is the ability for the safety system that's in place during autonomous mode to also be intact during remote operation. So the same, ability to detect an obstacle, detect a challenge, a person, an upright, whatever it is that occurs during autonomous mode is also overlaid in the remote op, which, again, in our minds, significantly reduces the risk exposure to both parties. So, the individuals on the floor, the remote operator, etc.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm sure the stuff you guys have put in place is keeping the equipment safe and people safe as well that may still be around. But I think it's an interesting thing, because I think us as humans, we have the tendency to want that control, right? And so kind of like letting go of the control is like the first thing, and then controlling something from far away is hard to grasp sometimes in our minds as well. And and especially when you have like a large vehicle like a reach truck, right? Yep. You're kind of like, whoa, is this thing gonna really go where I tell it to go. And it's pretty interesting that that's where things are heading, and where things are now. I guess you guys are doing it already, right? So I mean, in that regard, I mean, do you see that automation in the warehousing material handling industry is heading in this direction of kind of fully automated but like remote operator assisted? I mean, where do you think we're going in that sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a couple different types of supply chains out there.
Right.
The really robust, really well designed in terms of pallet dimensions, have all the controls in place, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to see them, in my mind, migrate more and more towards a fully automated system with less and less oversight. But I think the reality is those supply chains are, far and few between in the grand scheme of things. So I think for, the everyday warehouse, we'll say that you're going to see more and more of this type of model where, let's attempt to do as much autonomously as we can, but let's retain that human intelligence to handle the hard things, right? When the automation isn't there yet, let's use somebody to execute that.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. It's almost like, we talk about all these hybrid work approaches. It's like a hybrid approach to forklift operation, essentially, almost. So, which I think is pretty cool. And I think it's interesting that you point out if we have this warehouse that everything is standardized and perfect, essentially, we can just drop in like fully automated, right? But the reality is, as you mentioned, it's like everyday warehousing. It's not like that. It's not perfect. Like there's so many variables that happen, and you have especially with the volume we see, you have so many different people doing their own things, and people think in their own ways, and they may not always follow the standard or the process that's put in place, or you may have some place that's there's no real standards or processes in place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you guys have thought of that flexible aspect, and you're able to kind of put that in play, which I think gives the benefits of automation to a lot more people. And I think that's something that's kind of, I can always touch on that in the podcast, because it's a lot of, I guess, headlines and stuff that come out with automation and robotics and the supply chain is really, around some of the bigger players in the industry, right? And how, but you look at the bigger players, and resources are like essentially unlimited in a sense, right? But then you talk about everybody in between, the small and medium-sized businesses who are trying to keep up with these bigger players. They need flexibility in their options, and we're getting to the point, and I think this recent MODEX is kind of a testament to that, where we're getting to the point where pretty much everybody's going to have some level of automation or robotics in play to be able to meet these service levels that have been created in the expectation of the consumer. So it's interesting to see this flexibility in the solution, and I think it's really, really a great thing. I mean, because you give that ability to take advantage of the automation, but then also still have some flexibility and control, as we talked about, for some of the exceptions. So it's really interesting stuff what you guys are doing at Third Wave, and being able to give this mixed mode approach. And I'd be interested to see how the growth continues, and how people are starting to receive that, and then potentially how this may change the way that other people approach the automation options as well. So really insightful stuff from you Mike, and I appreciate you coming on and talking about Third Wave and these different solutions, and how this can kind of change the way we look at automation in a sense, in this hybrid approach. So I really appreciate it. And if people are interested in learning more about this and learning more about Third Wave, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. They can find us at thirdwave.ai and reach out directly there. We also have a ongoing webinar series that we're making available through both the website and LinkedIn. So if anyone is curious, wants to learn more in a no pressure situation, come and join us. If you just want to hop on the phone and talk about robots or talk about your facility, we are always eager to do so. We look at it as a huge learning opportunity for ourselves. So bring on the questions, bring on the inquisitions, and figure it out.
All right, great. And we'll put all the information on thenewwarehouse.com as well, so people can easily find it. And definitely make sure you get those questions ready for Mike. He sounds like he's ready to get a barrage of questions with the Inquisition there. So, so Mike, thank you once again for coming on the show today, and appreciate your time.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.